We're back on Get Up, and we opened the show this morning with James Harden's debut in Philadelphia and just how good he looked. Not only there, where he does look good, Jay Williams, but he also looked awfully good. And he and Joel Embiid, 3 games in, look incredibly comfortable together.
I said this before. I think this has the best chance to be the best pick and roll the NBA has seen since John Stockton and Karl Malone.
Yeah, and that kind of effective, and they do it from every single possible place. The Knicks made this a game early, but that wouldn't last particularly long. Look at Harden flipping the ball all over the place. He would finish with 26 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. Embiid had another big night. It's just 3 games, but the Sixers look awfully good. Scoring is up for the team, nearly 20 points a game, 3-point shooting. Harden himself is the first Sixer to score 80 points in his first 3 games with the franchise. So, to say the very least, so far so good. And Jay Will's not the only one who joins us. My uncle Seth Greenberg, no relation, jumps in here as well. Seth, the question's a pretty simple one. Embiid and Harden together, do they make the Sixers the best team in the NBA's Eastern Conference?
Yes, they do. I mean, you talk about it. You talk about what Harden's been able to do. It's not just what he's been able to do for Embiid. It's what he's been able to do for Tyrese Maxey. What he's been able to do, going to be able to do for Tobias Harris. Matisse Thybulle. He changed the dynamic of everything. He's a shot creator. He's a scorer. He sees all 5 defenders coming off every single ball screen. He gets everyone easy baskets. He's the toughest guard in the NBA at his size, at his strength. And to me, he makes the Sixers the best team in the East, not even close. Hey, Jay Will, I know you love your Brooklyn Nets. I understand that. But you know what? It's not even close.
So here's what I will say, Seth. There's a tendency for me to agree with you, but let's just hold on for a second. They played against a team. They played against a team that won 1 game. 1 game in the month of February. The New York Knicks and the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are fighting for a 7th or 8th seed in the Western Conference. So I'm all about giving Joel Embiid and James Harden all their credit. I love them as a dynamic duo. We can talk about how Doc Rivers needs to activate Tobias Harris more, because that's going to be a question to watch. Tyrese Maxey is terrific. But let me actually see them when they compete against the gauntlet. Now they have the Cavs coming up, the Miami Heat, the Chicago Bulls. Let me see when they compete against the upper tier of the Eastern Conference.
I mean, there's time to be. Yes, they've played the Knicks twice, to your point, and
yes.
The Knicks, so they stink. But Seth, let me come to you then, because you brought up Brooklyn, and that obviously those two will be looking at each other no matter how this thing turns out, because they were the parts of the big trade. What is your perspective? KD is supposed to come back tonight. When they had him on the floor, they were first in the East. Since he left, they have been one of the worst teams in basketball. But when they get KD back, and whatever it is they get out of Kyrie, how does Ben Simmons fit into that group? How good is Brooklyn going to be by the time the playoffs begin?
KD is the best player in the world. But I'll tell you one thing, he's playing with 2 ifs. And what I mean by 2 ifs, you've got Kyrie Irving, if he's going to play. How many games is he going to play? Is he going to be in shape? Is he going to be able to fit with Ben Simmons, because he's going to have no court time with him? And then the other if is Ben Simmons. Look, Ben Simmons, at 5, I like him at 5, actually, because you can rebound the ball on the defensive end and initiate your break. Obviously, he's not expected to make a lot happen in terms of making shots, but he is going to shrink the court. And last time I checked, and Jay Will, you won a championship. You were tough. Magic's won championships. Bird's won championships. LeBron's won championships. Those guys had a toughness, a pedigree of winning, a fierceness about him. When I think about Ben Simmons, I think fragile. Because if he wasn't fragile, he wouldn't have ran from the challenges that happened in Philadelphia. He would have said, you know what, I'm going to get this thing right. I'm going to stick around. We have the makings of a championship team. But he didn't. And he didn't because he didn't have that grit, that toughness. Can he defend? Yeah. At a 5, is he a good player? Yes. But when you got 2 ifs, and one of those ifs is a little bit fragile in terms of self-doubt, forget about it.
You know, Seth, I'm worried about the Brooklyn Nets because, Greeny, you may mention when they were first in the Eastern Conference, they had James Harden on that team who gave them a prolific punch offensively. Now, when Ben Simmons comes back, that's a big question for this team. And as we all know, when we get into the playoffs, defensive strategies become more crystallized and refined. So my biggest question is, I love Patty Mills. I love Seth Curry. I love Kevin Durant. He is the best player in basketball. I like the size that they've been able to add. But there are teams out there like Miami who's great defensively. There are teams out there like the 76ers, the Milwaukee Bucks, defending world champions, that they understand how to play defense in these games. I don't know who Ben Simmons will be offensively, and I think that loss of a punch offensively hurts them.
Very quickly, a week from tonight, the Nets are at Philadelphia, which is a game a lot of people circled. It's Simmons going back. Now the question is, will he play? He hasn't played yet. Will he play in that game? Does he need to play in that game?
He better play in that game. You much rather start going against Philadelphia right now than potentially see them in the playoffs for the first time, and that's the first time you're actually going to compete against Philly. You'd rather start the process now than
I agree.
later.
I mean, get it over. We don't know that they'll play the Sixers in the playoffs. Who knows what might wind up happening, but it certainly could. Seth, do you think he needs to play that game a week from tonight?
Without a doubt, he needs to play. He needs to face his demons.
Yes.
He's got to face his demons. Like, here's the deal. You got to go back to Philly and man up and say, you know what? This is what you're missing. I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready to help Brooklyn win a championship. Because if he doesn't, he's running from his demons.
All right, let me go to the other game last night that I wanted to show you here. An unbelievable finish between two of the East Conference big teams, and that's Jimmy Butler's Heat and Giannis and the Bucks. A fourth quarter, a buck and a half to play. Heat are up by 2. Tyler is the hero. Knocks this one down. He had 30 off the bench. Heat by 4. But look how this game finishes. Less than 20 seconds to go. Bucks down 4. They get a steal. Chris Middleton, yes, in transition. It's a 1-point game. Heat call timeout. Now watch what happens. 13 and a half seconds left. Heat inbounding. The ball goes to Butler. They're going to wind up calling this a jump ball, Jay. Is this a good call?
No, that's a foul.
That's
a foul. It's not a jump ball.
Clearly should have been a foul, but they call it a jump ball. Eric Spoelstra can't believe it. Giannis winds up winning the jump ball, and so here we go. Watch the clock at the bottom of your screen. 6 seconds, 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds. Drew Holiday. Yes, Bucks at 1-point lead. Hold on. They're not going to call a timeout. They're going to. This is what they wind up with. 1.9 seconds left, and that's the shot they get, Jay. And that's the best they can do, and that's how your ball game ends. 120 to 119. Milwaukee with a big win. They were down 14 entering the final 6 minutes. They went on a 21-6 run to end it. Entering the game, teams were 2 and 488 when trailing by 14 points in the final 6 minutes of regulation. Milwaukee now just 3 games back of Miami for the best record in the East. All right, I want to change the subject here because while I have you two guys, we have to focus on this. Saturday night, 6 Eastern on ESPN. The legend, Duke coach Mike Krzyzewski, will take the court for his final game at Cameron Indoor Stadium, Duke in Carolina. If you went to Cameron over the years, odds were you saw Coach K win. He won 88% of his games there. Prior to Coach K, Duke had 8 different head coaches in that building. They combined to win 214 fewer games than Mike Krzyzewski. And, you know, we have the two of you guys. Seth, you coached against him in a lot of those games. And, Jay, you won so many of those games with him and for him. So the emotions, you think, as you prepare to watch this and all of us to experience this legendary moment on Saturday?
It's surreal for me. I mean, we obviously been doing so much. I haven't really focused on how it's going to be like for me to be in that arena. I won 95 of those games at Coach K. My record was 95 and 13 in my 3 years, right? 3 ACC championships, 1 national championship, #1 seed every single year. And you kind of having Grant Hill, having J.J. Redick be there, I don't know if Kyrie Irving's going to be there, Zion Williamson, all of us come back. That brotherhood is going to be a very emotional moment because it's so much bigger than basketball for him. That's how people will remember his legacy, but the way he's affected all of our lives as players is something that can never be taken away and will be with